Finally, I had the honor to talk with Maximilian Schwarzmüller. I hope that I pronounced his name well. Max is one of the best, if not the best, instructor if you want to become a developer. He has about 50 courses. Yes, not videos, but courses. In 2017, I took his Angular course, and that helped me out to crash the interview for the European Space Agency. So thank you so much, Max. Let's get started. Let's start with this amazing interview. Okay, so we are here to interview Maximilian Schwarzmüller. I don't know if I've pronounced that well, but I tried my best because I've heard this name many times. And Max is one of the best instructors on the whole internet if you are a developer. So if you're watching this, if you still don't know him, be sure to follow him everywhere. I'll put some links below everywhere, so no worries about that. So I made this series because one day I wanted to interview some very famous people that I really admire, and one of them is Max. I started learning development with Max. I still remember an Angular course. We just had 15 videos, so it was really at the beginning of this course, and I've also seen the process of he improving so much. He also started a YouTube channel, Academind. So we have many things to talk about. So Max, welcome, and first of all, how are you?
Yeah, thank you for having me and for this awesome introduction. I'm fine. How are you?
Fine, thanks. It's Friday, so it's usually we do a lot of stuff, but so thank you. This is like the lunch break for me. I've eaten very fast, and now we are ready to start. If you're ready, so okay. So usually the first question that I always ask, because I'm honestly interested into this, is how did you become a developer? Because I think this is really interesting to share also our stories. What did you do before? So yeah, feel free to share whatever you want, even if it will take 2 hours. I will stay here and listen to
you. So I think I started programming and writing code at the age of 12 or 13. I don't know exactly. It's been some time since then, but it was back then. And it was actually with HTML, because I built like a website for Warcraft 3, which is a video game. I built a website for that game, or I wanted to build a website, and I taught myself how to do that with HTML and CSS back then. And that was how I got started with programming and writing code. And over the years, I always stayed interested in programming. I never stopped. I evolved my web development skills. I explored HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, though in the early 2000s, when this was, JavaScript wasn't too useful. It was it's not what it is today. It was just for having flashing messages on the screen or anything like this. It wasn't too useful. And I then, of course, also explored the server side with PHP back then, because in 2005, everyone used PHP for server-side code. That was the thing. There was no Node.js. There were no powerful frameworks for I guess there were frameworks, but it was way harder to get started with other languages than PHP, because there were a lot of resources for that. Because around that time, the whole Web 2.0 thing was getting started around 2004, 2005, and so on. And so I kind of explored all of that as well. And then I also explored non-web development things. I worked a lot with C# back then, built some desktop apps with that. And yeah, over the time, I always stayed interested, learned more languages, learned a bit of C++ and all these things. Also had a look at game development and really built a lot of things, but it was always a hobby, basically. And I then studied something totally different. I studied business administration in 2008. I got started with that. and studied till 2014 in the end. And I then also started working in a bank and as a consultant and did business administration things. But I always stayed interested in programming. And also during my studies, I always kept on developing, writing code, building side projects, all these things, built some mobile apps, all these things basically. Yeah, and then after getting started as a consultant and working some time as a consultant and in banks, I decided that this is not really what I wanted to do, that I love writing code so much more than doing the other things, that I then, got self-employed. I started my own business. I started working as a freelancer, built websites for clients, and I also knew pretty early that I wanted to get started sharing knowledge because I'm self-taught myself. I learned everything on my own. I have not taken any university courses or anything like this. And when I learned it, there also weren't many resources on the internet. It's not what it is today. And so I knew that I wanted to start sharing knowledge. And that's why I then also did that professionally.
Nice. This is an amazing story. I would literally listen just to this for at least 1 hour, Max. It's interesting also that you have not been always a content creator. So you started gathering information, experimenting stuff. By the way, big fan of Blizzard games too. So, but maybe that will be a separate podcast otherwise. So we go really out of the tangent. So yes. So I'd like to know from you because. Maybe I have an idea of how much does it take to create a whole course. I still don't have a paid course. But I've seen that you have created, I think I started to count them. It was around 50, but we are not talking about 50 videos. We're talking about 50 complete courses. So if you start checking them, you get an idea of how much content Max and, of course, his team are creating. So I'd like to know from your experience, maybe the first one, because usually the first one it's always a bit strange. Which platforms have you used, and how has been your experience? I'm super interested into this, please.
Yeah. So the very first course which I built was actually a Laravel course, so for Laravel PHP. And I built that course back then because at that time I worked a lot with Laravel, so it made sense to build that course. And I built it for Udemy because I took some courses on Udemy in the past. So this was basically the only platform I knew and a platform where I knew how it worked, at least from a student's perspective. And that's why I then decided to build a course for Udemy and build it on Laravel. And as you said, the first course was really not that great. It was okay, I guess, but the audio was horrible. I had way too little examples in there, so I needed more examples. The structure could have been improved. The video quality, it wasn't that great. So it was not a good course, I would say, today. But back then it was perfect because I got started with it. And I strongly believe that if you want to do something, you have to do it, right? You can always try to improve and make it better. But if you keep on doing that, you will never release a product. You will never release a course. I mean, when you started interviewing people, if you look back at your first episodes, chances are high that you think, well, I could have done something better. But if you would never have started, then we wouldn't be talking today. So you have to get started. And it was the same for this first course.
Yeah, absolutely. That was it was not an interview. It was a call with one of my friends, and we just put that on the internet. So I was not even asking questions like this, like I'm trying to asking some questions. It was just literally talking with him. What have you done today? Something like that. So it was not an interview. And then after a while, people started to like this sort of things. So here we are now. Yeah. Yes. And I really love this approach of experimenting stuff. Don't get stuck on overthinking, on say, maybe let's record it again, because I like the idea that you think in courses. You don't focus on just one clip, because otherwise, basically, you go mad. You'll never get done with either one. It would be super stressful. It's already stressful doing that things like that, and so I've really seen a huge improvement. I also think that also the first Angular course, I think it was one of the first ones. Yeah. It was good at the core, I can say. So the core, like the way you explain it was good. Of course, something could be improved, but I think that people love you for the way you explain things. It's not about the single error in the audio or some not 4K recording. It's not about that, especially for development. Yes. So now it's getting very interesting, because I would like to know the course creation from your point of view. So how do you approach creating a course? Because I've seen that you have done different courses on different topics. I think I have almost all of them, but big fan. So, but from your perspective, how is your experience of creating a course? You can take Udemy or whatever you want.
Yeah, I think it has changed over the years, of course, because maybe if I quickly go back to the first courses, the Angular course, which you also mentioned, that was the second course, and it was honestly my breakthrough course. This course changed everything, because the Laravel course was okay. It was okay to get started and test things, but it didn't sell a lot of copies. It didn't have a lot of students. But the Angular course was like I think one of the first Angular 2 courses on Udemy, but even in the entire internet at that time. And I had a good timing. I had a lot of Angular videos on YouTube before the course, but then I saw how much traction those videos got, and that's why I created the Angular course. And then the Angular course got so many enrollments, and also gave me the opportunity of doing this as my full-time job, because it basically earned enough money so that I could focus on creating courses instead of doing freelance work and so on. But back then, when I created the course, I just learned Angular myself like a couple of months before that, because Angular 2 was brand new. There was no way of knowing it since for 3 or 5 years, because it was brand new. So I knew what I found difficult whilst learning it. And I tried to build a course that simplified this process, that simply made the hard things easier and explained things such that they build up on each other, that it makes sense, that it's easier to learn Angular. Because when I learned it with the official documentation, which back then was horrible, it was like a mess. You had to try out a lot of things. You had to build a lot of demo projects and then dive into the source code to find out how certain things work. And I wanted to make that simpler. Of course, when I create a course on a topic which I know for years, like JavaScript, then it's different. Then I simply try to build. I try to build the course such that all the things build up on each other logically. And that's the general schema which I try to use for all my courses. But I want to make sure that we always start at the basics and then we build up knowledge. And this doesn't sound too fancy, but it can sometimes be difficult to identify what the basics actually are. I mean, with JavaScript, you could get started with diving into how scripts can be added into a website. And if you think about it, there are dozens of ways of doing that. You can pull them in from a CDN. You can use a tool like Webpack. You can write vanilla JavaScript code, which is not optimized or bundled at all. And if you get started with that, you're going to lose everyone, because no one understands this when you're just getting started with as a developer. So I always try to focus on the bare foundation and keep things simple. And then throughout the course, things get more complex, and I try to dive into more advanced scenarios. I always try to show the entire API. I try to cover all features, or at least all important features a tool or a language has to offer. And I, of course, also try to use best practices, whilst at the same time keeping examples simple and manageable, which is sometimes a trade-off. Sometimes I kind of write suboptimal code because it makes it easier to explain a certain concept. Because if I write the cleanest code ever, the code which I maybe write in my own projects, then again, it can be difficult to understand it because things get split up. You have a lot of refactoring. You have a lot of code everywhere, and that can be, you have a very abstract code that can be very difficult to understand. So I try to keep that simple, practice orientated, and start with the basics and build up knowledge.
Nice. And of course, you get that comment which says, "Oh, this code can be cleaner if written in the exact way you would write by yourself."
Absolutely. I do get those comments, and at the beginning, I used to like argue with people who write such comments, but I don't do that anymore because they are correct. You could write it cleaner, but the course is not about showing that I'm a great developer. It's not about showing off my development skills. It's about teaching other people how to write code. And if someone doesn't like the code I write, that's okay, as long as I taught more people what the code actually does. And then if you are a developer, you will yourself like evolve and be able to write cleaner code. So
yeah, of course, I am one of the people who really like how Max writes in his course. I wanted to say this. And now a little surprise, Max, before we go on the next question. I just want to tell you, thank you so much, because when I got that Angular course, I made an interview for the European Space Agency, and it was about Angular, and I crushed that interview. So thank you so much. I worked there I worked there for about 3 years. Then I started creating more content. Now I do total different things, but really that was very, very useful. This is not a promoted stuff. It was a surprise for you, so I really wanted to tell you this live. Thank you so much in recording.
Nice. This is really amazing to hear, because honestly, stories like this mean a lot to me. I do get messages a lot where people write similar things, and hearing something like that is always amazing, because that is why I started this whole thing at the beginning. I wanted to share knowledge, and it's awesome to hear that it helped you and so many other students. That's really amazing.
Nice. And I think this is the first time that I say this, so now we'll spread the word, because this is really something that we have to do. Okay, now, so about the Academind project, because I think that this is something that happened after, because after a while I started to see this brand or company, whatever you want to call it. So I'd like to know a bit more about the project, the idea, what are you doing, where. I want to know more, please.
Yeah. So as you said, you are correct. I started alone, basically, and initially I had like a brand name which was Mindspace on my YouTube channel, but I then dropped this because it's actually already taken by another company. And on Udemy I sold courses as Maximilian, and I still do nowadays. But as you said, I founded Academind in 2017, actually, together with a very good friend, who I know from university. We've been friends for 14 years now, and we founded Academind to do this thing together, because we always talked about creating a company together and working together, and we never had an idea. So now we had an opportunity of doing that, and I think many content creators, if they work on their own, will at some point hit that point where it gets a bit lonely, maybe a bit difficult to stay motivated and continue if you are just on your own. Because I don't know how it is for you, but for me it was in 2016. I created all these courses and I had a lot of success, and it was a lot of fun, but you also had pretty much no one to talk to about that and share thoughts and ideas, because of course I talked to my girlfriend and to my family, but they weren't involved in the content creation. So they could of course give me some advices and so on, but they weren't closely involved. So I really hoped that Manuel, my partner in Academind, would agree to do this together, which he did, because since then we've been doing this together, and it's more fun in the long run, and also very helpful and good if you don't work alone, at least for me, because we can share ideas, we can try things out, we give each other feedback. And I mean, I have published, or we have published, a lot of courses, but there also are many courses which we never published because we weren't happy with them. Not finished courses, of course, but courses where we maybe like recorded like 4 or 5 hours already, and then we like decided this is not really a good quality. This course is not good. And that's something where having a partner helps a lot. So yeah, since 2017, we're doing this together, and we of course share work, we split work, we like create the YouTube videos and the courses, and also a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And yeah, that's what we do there.
Nice. No, for now I don't have a partner or a company because I'm working as a developer advocate. So for now it's good for me doing like that. I can tell you that I started making also this kind of interviews also to share ideas in some ways. It's not like working together, but if you do like more than 100, 160, almost 200, I get some ideas, of course, for you. We can share what we can do. We can even create some collaborations. I've done a stream yesterday. We done one of my dearest friends. So yes, so for now, this is what I'm doing. So just to don't feel completely alone, of course, as you say, there's also my girlfriend, but she's not involved in development yet. I'm sad. But yes, so yes, this is a great way. Also, a reason why I do this kind of interviews is also to show the developers are like human beings. We have feelings. We don't like code every day. I think I've seen some hiking pictures sometimes. So, for example, I also other interests, other hobbies. So this is also what I like to do. Before being a developer, I was a volleyball coach, so a total different job, surrounded by people. So for me, it has been strange, like to sit on a chair for 8 hours per day. But yes. Nice. Yes. Now, Max. Now, I hope that I can call you Max. Max, you're I wanted you to be here because I want to ask you this question: how do you manage to publish so many courses during a year? Because they are really, I can't even count them. I don't know. I mean, so. How do you manage this? I don't know. Do you create just one course? Do you create them in parallel, multi-threading? I don't know. I really want to know from you that you are a master in this. Please.
So typically, we work on one course at a time. So if I record a course, it's very, very rarely more than one, only if like things get super hectic or there are a lot of updates to do. And it is a lot of work, to be honest, because like these super long courses, if you have like a 30 or 40 or 50 or 80-hour course, that of course is tons of work. So of course it helps that we're 2 people because we like split the work. So especially in 2017 and 18, where we like pushed out a lot of courses in very short time, I was basically recording the entire day or preparing projects or slides and so on, and Manuel was cutting the videos. Because, of course, since I'm also not a native speaker, there is a lot of cutting to be done. These videos are not one-take videos. There are a lot of errors, and especially in 2017 and 18, when I was just getting started, it was basically like 3 hours of recording produced 2 hours of video footage. So there was a lot of editing to be done, and we split that work, but we also worked in those years basically like 12 to 16 hours every day, including many weekends. So it simply was a lot of work. And it has become way less work now because we also wanted to have a bit of a more work-life balance. We now also have someone in our team who helps with cutting and editing, and that's how we can still keep the output high, but we still have a bit more personal life along the way. And of course, it also always depends on the topic on which you're creating courses. And over the years, since I have created so many courses, I of course also got more efficient. Like there are certain approaches or projects or slides which I can reuse, which I know will work. I don't have to like build everything from scratch all the time, even though I try to still like have different projects in different courses, but still you can reuse certain pieces, and that of course helps. And over the years, of course, I also did many course updates, and I will continue doing those. And those are a bit simpler because you re-record a course which you already recorded, but it's still an entire new course, often with new projects. So that's also a lot of work. But yeah, efficiency got better. And in the past, it simply was like tons of hours of work. So yeah.
I'm a bit disappointed because I was expecting that you had like a time machine or something like that. So I'm a bit disappointed. But,
unfortunately not.
But I see that you have, for example, you made a lot of work, for example, for updating that, like for Angular 2 to Angular 4. If you know what I mean, if you've been following Angular, you know what I'm talking about. So
yeah, especially with Angular, I know that very well because that was right at the beginning when I got started. And Angular 2, when it was released, I created the course when it was in beta, and then they released a release candidate version. And after the first, and normally release candidate means the API is stable and nothing changes, only bug fixes. But I then re-recorded a significant chunk of the course, and then they decided that they would change something again, which you see in basically every video. They introduced Angular modules back then, and this changed everything because all the component decorators had to be changed, and you had to add those modules. And it wasn't a big change in code, but in a course, it's a huge change because it affects almost every video. And this was like 5 days before I went on vacation, and I basically sat down and worked 5 days through.
I see that you still remember the exact number of days. So.
Yeah, this was horrible. I know I woke up, I saw this, and I know, no, this can't be true. And I like the 5 days before that vacation, I really needed that vacation thereafter.
Yes, and I think this is one of the downsides of being a pioneer. Sometimes you have to risk, but I think that in the whole approach, I think this is the right one. This is the tough one, but this is, I think, also the one more rewarding, of course. And
I won't complain at all. I mean, it worked out perfectly, and I benefited a lot from that course. It enabled everything basically, so it was well worth it. But back in that time, it was like, I thought, are you serious?
Nice. Yes, sometimes if you are recording something, changing is not that easy. Like if you do a podcast or an interview, or it's hard to cut video stuff. Yes, Max, I'm really enjoying this podcast so much, this interview, really so much. So now I'd like to ask you, I don't know if you can reply, but it doesn't have to be just one. So which is like your favorite course? It can be for any reason, for the number of students that you have, because you enjoyed so much. So I'll really leave this question very open. You're not forced to answer, but I would like to know from your point of view, which has been which you consider like in a rock band, like which is your favorite song? So which is your favorite course?
That's a good question. I mean, you have to tell me if my answers are too long, because there isn't a single course, but I got a couple of courses which are favorite courses for different reasons. Like Angular is, if I had to pick one, it would be the Angular course because it changed everything. It like gave me that audience on Udemy, which I have today, or it started this whole thing. So that would be the single course which I would pick. But then there are so many other courses which were important milestones or simply a lot of fun to create as well. Like the React course was another big course. It's now actually our biggest course. And creating that was something which we almost didn't do because there were a lot of React courses already back then. But I then said, I want to create it. I like working with React, so let's create that course. And so that was amazing because we didn't expect anything from that course. Then I think that, for example, the Docker course was pretty cool because this was a special course because I took a lot of time to create that course, because teaching Docker is difficult, especially if you leave like the absolute basics, if you like also dive into multi-container setups and so on. And I enjoyed this a lot because it was a great challenge. I had to like get creative with many explanations, and I'm very happy with that course, and it is one of my absolute best rated courses to this date. So that's also another favorite course because it's it was one of the most fun courses to create, to be honest. Yeah, so
nice. I just want to say that
courses.
Sorry. I just want to say this is not a scripted answer, but I don't know if you know that I'm also a Docker captain, Docker ambassador.
I know,
I'll be at DockerCon in a couple of days. So, and I also liked the picnic analogy of your Docker course.
Yeah.
Of course, I have that. So I'll link all the courses, and I agree with you. Of course, it's not easy because you don't know where to start if you want to learn to teach Docker from a single technology, or starting from the basics, which can also sound very annoying, and boring, super boring. So yes, I'm super happy with this answer. To be honest, that's nice, Max. We're almost at the end. And just one more question, which is how do you use social media? Because of course, social media content creation is not exactly the same thing. Like staying on Twitter or creating a course is not exactly the same thing. So how do you use the social media? And of course, where can we find you? Where are you more active?
Yeah, I would say I use it not even closely enough. I'm a bit of a social media. I'm not a huge social media person. Let's put it like this. I am on Twitter, and I'm pretty active on Twitter. Not writing that much, but I'm reading multiple times every day because you get a lot of information there. Also, a lot of bad things, but also a lot of useful information. And so I use Twitter heavily. And of course, we have our YouTube channel. We also have a Facebook page, but to be honest, we don't do a lot there. We have a Discord community, which is awesome because there we give like students a way of talking or discussing with each other. So we also have an Instagram page where we don't do a lot. I think we could do way more on all these channels, and we probably should. It's just always been the case since it's just the two of us, and yeah, we have a couple of freelancers with whom we work, but we don't have a huge team, and therefore always or often social media was like the thing where we put the least focus on, because we rather created high quality courses, and we always had the huge advantage of reaching a broad audience on Udemy and YouTube. And so we weren't pressured to like use all channels to the fullest, but it is still something which we'd like to do at some point, and use it more, and also interact with our community more, because that's definitely a point where we can improve.
Yes, and I can confirm this because I've noticed that Max was replying to me even if we had like just 100 followers. Now I'm close to 100,000 of followers, but Max has always been the same with all my tweets and retweets and comments when I try to suggest, of course, all the courses that I had. So I can confirm this. You can try. and yes, there's so much to work that we can do if we're open to have some collaborations, especially on Twitter. I think I'm very active there. It could be very interesting. We will talk about this if you want. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I am following you on Twitter. I don't know if I'm officially following you, but I do read a lot that you post. So I also knew like that you worked for this for the space agency, right? So was it EASA?
No, the ESA, yes, European Space Agency, yes, for about 3 years, from 2017 to 2020. Then when I started working from home, basically I started to dedicate way more, or we can say I started to dedicate on social media. So now I feel totally different person, but at least now I have the honor to talk with you. So I'm super happy. And yes, so yeah, sorry.
No, good. So I do follow you there. I do follow a lot of other people there as well. And yeah, as I said, it's definitely something where I should be doing more, or where I also would want to do more.
Nice. I have a super fast question before we go to the very,
Sure.
very last one, I promise. Do you have any experience with public speaking? Have you ever done public speaking in person or not?
Some, but only very limited. I did talk on Udemy Live, which is a conference organized by Udemy. I did talk on that conference twice in 2017 and 2018, which was a lot of fun. I'm not visiting a lot of conferences, programming conferences like ngConf or ReactConf or anything like this. Because for multiple reasons, because I'm like a little we have a lot of work, so it's always a bit hard to like get that time to go there, and I'm also not that huge networker who like talks to dozens or hundreds of people, so that's why I'm not really active in such conferences, but I did enjoy talking on those Udemy conferences. Yeah.
Nice, great. Okay, Max. Before we close, would you like to give? Would you like to give a final message? Because I usually at the end of these interviews, most of the audience are like developers who just got started, or maybe are struggling, or they feel overwhelmed. They want to learn everything. So, which advice would you give? From your perspective, from a person who is, I really think that you are a great teacher. Both of my parents are teachers, so I have teachers. I've been around teachers with all my life, so I really consider you a great teacher. So, which advice can we give to people who are just getting started, or maybe just got, I don't know, the first job as junior developer? So, how they can improve their career? What tips can we give to them? And then we will close, sadly, this first, I hope, the first collaboration with Max.
So I think basically the tip or the hint, which I already mentioned at the beginning of the interview regarding my first course, the Laravel course, it's easy to like get intimidated and see like all the things you can know and you can learn, or maybe you should know or learn. And especially if you get started with development and you then get a bit more experienced, you quickly see that there are so many things to learn. As in web development, it can be totally overwhelming. Like you have, in theory, you have like HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and some backend language. But then you have libraries and frameworks and optimization techniques and bundlers and third-party tools and animations and image optimization. And the list doesn't stop. Like you have so many things. But it's important to like take a step back and ignore all these things. If you're just getting started, focus on the essentials and like build stuff. Start building projects, start building demo projects, because if you do that, you'll automatically learn more and more, and you will automatically encounter certain problems, and then you understand why certain solutions exist. And there will also be a lot of technologies or things which you will never need, like Docker. Maybe you never need to work with Docker. You don't need to learn it. Maybe you never do write any backend code, so you don't need to learn it. But if you like feel overwhelmed initially, then you don't even get the chance of like improving and getting there. So just as with my first course, it wasn't a great course, but I got started, I built it, and then I learned a lot of things from that course. And I created my second course, and that also wasn't great initially, but I kept evolving and improving it. And that's the key to success anywhere. Like, and it's the same for becoming a developer and improving there. Like, get started, ignore the difficult parts, just build stuff, and yeah, don't forget that you started it because you were interested at some point, probably. So don't lose that interest. That's my best advice.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Max. We will put the links, of course, of Academind, the courses, your social media, everywhere down below in description. And yes, so I would be glad to make some more collaborations whenever on Twitter, YouTube, whatever. And so thank you. Good luck with all your future work. I still don't know. So I'm not completely happy with this interview because I still don't know how you just into people you can do so much work. But I really admire you and Manuel, of course. So yes, thank you so much again, Max, and see you next time. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a lot of fun, and let's definitely stay in touch regarding possible future collaborations or interviews or whatever. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, really a great interview. Time went by super fast.
Yeah, super fast. Perfect. Yeah. Okay, we are done. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.